Hey YouTubers! In my last video I mentioned I was going to start branching away from my go-to animes like Dragon Ball or Yu Yu Hakusho and focus on more different stuff. Unfortunately I really just don't have the time right now to start any long-running series like a lot of people have suggested, like Naruto, One Piece, or Bleach. But if there's one thing that anime does really well, it's telling great stories in a very concise short amount of time. So with that information I stumbled upon this series that's called Steins. Now before I get into all this, I just wanted to say that I just finished watching this series and I just wanted to share my thoughts on it, kind of like a mini review if you will. And it's also my understanding that this particular property started out as a video game and then became a manga and then became an anime and then became some kind of a movie a couple years back. So one of the things that I'm not really sure about is whether I've actually seen the entire story or not or anything like that, so keeping that in mind as you watch this video. Although the anime did really seem like a whole and complete story, so I'm just going to go off of everything I saw in there, nothing about the game, the movie, anything else will be taken into account with this review. The series deals almost exclusively with the notion of time and time travel. Like every time travel story before it, the main themes are cause and effect, in which the protagonist has to go backwards in time in order to alter the future. Without going into too much of a spoiler territory, because trust me, you wouldn't want me to spoil the show for you, it's really that good. Anyway, we're introduced to the protagonist, Okabe, a self-proclaimed mad scientist who goes under the handle Honin Kiyoma, but his friends call him Ocarine. From the moment that we meet him, Okabe seems like your typical mad scientist type. He's constantly breaking out into these maniacal fits of laughter, and he talks to himself about the mysterious organization that he believes is watching him. In this fight against this organization that he keeps talking about, he opens up a thing called the Future Gadget Laboratory, where him and his best friends Mayuri and Daru, basically it's an upstairs apartment on top of a TV repair shop. It's really here where they just sit around and make these really weird type of toys or weapons or something in which they think that they're fighting this organization, but it's really just used more for comedy, especially in the darker parts of the show. In the first episode, Okabe and Mayuri travel to hear a lecture about time travel from a well-renowned scientist, and Okabe inevitably makes this huge scene, but before an argument can be broken out, this girl comes and drives him away. Her name is Kurisu. She confronts Okabe for these actions that we have no real recollection of, and Okabe simply pushes her aside and assumes that she's either crazy or that she's in awe of his vast intelligence and everything like that. It's exactly at this time where he leaves Kurisu and he goes to find Mayuri in order to get them to leave, but he's interrupted by this ghastly scream that sends him running upstairs, where he finds Kurisu dead in a puddle of her own blood. Instead of informing the authorities though, Okabe grabs Mayuri and sends Daru a text about what just happened. Suddenly the world around him stops and everyone disappears, only to reappear again. At this time, a satellite is seemingly fallen out of the sky and hit the building that they were just in. Personally, I don't care to give up much more than that, because Steins is one of those shows that you need to go in knowing very little about in order to get the full extent and enjoyment out of it. So I'm going to leave it at that. That's basically the first 7 or 8 minutes of the opening episode. So believe me when I feel like I've said I am spoiling nothing, and it's definitely enough to get you interested in what you're about to see. That being said, I think even watching this series, even as quickly as I did, you pretty much can guess how things are going to pan out if you're even attuned even a little bit to how time travel stories work in the long run. However, Steins really has a very unique spin on the concept of time travel from the very beginning, and it never really stops pushing that and making it much more risky and everything, and we get to see a lot of different ways that people can travel through time. That's not something you actually see in a lot of different time travel, even genres, movies, novels, or anything. You basically just have one thing and you're stuck with that one thing and have to deal with it. Steins says no to that, and it allows for multiple different time traveling methods to be introduced and kind of explored throughout its run. So I'm really happy with the way that they did that, because it keeps the story from getting really stale and adds a new level of complexity to the overall concept. Although on a side note, if you really want a great time travel story, you gotta check out the video game series Legacy of Kain. It's great, and I would love to do a whole video about the story about that, but we're talking about 40 plus minutes worth of just information just thrown at you. Boom, boom, boom. I couldn't even imagine doing something like that at this point, but maybe later, maybe if I get a bunch of subs, maybe people think that, oh, I remember this game, I don't really know much about it, Mark, can you tell me about it? And maybe we'll figure out we can do that later. Anyway, I'm getting way off topic. This review is about Steins. And it's actually really interesting, because the concept of time travel isn't what makes the series so enjoyable, but rather the relationships that it builds through the concept itself. As I've said in one of my last videos, I believe that storytelling is more of a psychology than an art form in many cases, and the story like Steins Gate is really no different. Many mangas and animes, TV shows, movies, books, comic books, any type of media really deals with the concepts of friendship, fate, and personal desires. This series deals with all three of those concepts, and it's hard not to see the correlation between these things in our day-to-day lives. One of the reasons I really enjoyed this show is because it deals with a group of people who find interest in shared experiences and interests. That's a universal desire, and I think it's why a lot of us make videos on YouTube, because we enjoy finding others who share those similar interests as us, and we want to make a community based around those interests. I believe a lot of that's true, and I think Steins Gate really finds its heart by establishing all these characters and building their relationships through each other. The time travel just becomes like this blanket that you push everything in, and it kind of ties everyone in this story together. It's not really the thing that makes the story as a whole. Definitely the relationships make this story. It's really heartwarming for us to see that these characters achieve their desires through the use of time travel, but it only makes it that much more devastating to watch these things get systematically taken away from them in order to fix the mistakes that they've made. The only thing I didn't really know about this series is whether or not the math and science actually makes any sense. If you know anything about this stuff or anything, just please leave it in the comments below. I would really like to know if it made any sense or if it was just all gibberish or anything like that. I got lost so many times about how things worked or what the rules or anything was. The series just kind of loses itself in terms of figuring out where you are and what certain point, time jumps and whatnot. It becomes very complicated. That being said, Steins Gate actually shuns its own explanations throughout the entire series. They play it off as more of a joke than any other thing, and with the way that time travel works in most media, that makes a lot of sense. You don't want to bog the audience down with too much science mumbo jumbo or anything where we get lost in it. And the stuff that was explained, I kind of started getting lost in anyway. I'm not science minded, I'm more of an artsy guy and whatnot, so it's one of those things to be expected. If you can get over those logical bumps within the series, I think you'll have a whole lot of fun watching it. The one thing I can assure you is that in a mere 25 episodes, Steins Gate is definitely worth the watch. And if you don't necessarily like it, then it's not so long that you have to hate yourself for having wasted the time doing it. You can basically do this over a weekend. The series is so expertly put together that it's really hard for me to think of how much further beyond my initial viewing that I would actually be willing to watch it. But that's really a good thing. It's so refreshing to absorb a completely unique and original story in only a matter of a few episodes. And if you haven't seen this series yet, or if you haven't even heard of it until now, I highly recommend it. As I've said before, it's not the biggest commitment out there, and when it comes to other shows, the story is definitely interesting enough to keep your attention throughout. Anyway, I'm going to leave it at that. I hope you enjoyed this video. I hope you've enjoyed Steins Gate. If you didn't, please tell me in the comments below. If you did, please tell me in the comments below. Don't forget to rate, comment, and subscribe, and I'll see y'all later.